Yo, what's going on, YouTube? And welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy, Kevin Forte. And today, we're taking a look down in Toronto. As apparently, the Toronto Maple Leafs got rejected by Patrick Kane. And the reports earlier this week, Patrick Kane rejected a trade to the Leafs. It sounds like he doesn't want to go there. Well, now we've heard some conflicting reports to that. To the contrary, that he never rejected a trade to go to the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that was according to the hockey writers. Now, for the last couple of weeks, months, you could maybe consider it years at this point, we've heard rumors that Patrick Kane could eventually get traded. He's a year away from unrestricted free agency. And it doesn't sound like the Chicago Blackhawks want him to stick around. It's going to cost a lot of money. It seems like they're wanting to go down the route of a full-on rebuild. And if that's the case, well, Jonathan Toews and Patrick Kane don't necessarily fit into that mold. And they'd probably like to get some prospects and draft picks for Patrick Kane before he leaves the team next summer for nothing. So what we were hearing is basically that Patrick Kane was down to 3 or 4 teams. Because I was hearing some reports that said 3 teams, but some of those lists were different teams. One of them was the Rangers. Washington was another team that was kind of interesting. Let's see if I could find it. Yeah, so that was according to the hockey writers. They said he does not want to play in Toronto. And then again, like I said, it sounds like we've kind of got conflicting reports on that. He wouldn't accept a trade to the Maple Leafs per Kevin Weeks. Again, Kevin Weeks has been a little bit spotty here recently, and that's nothing against him, but that's just what we've been hearing. Yeah, so these are the 3 teams. The Rangers, the Oilers, and the Capitals are the top 3 teams on Patrick Kane's trade list. And again, that is according to Kevin Weeks. So, if that's the case, well, is there a reason to believe that the Leafs aren't on the list at all of teams he would be willing to go to? Now, I think the thing for Kane, and I always bring this up when I make this video, there's a legacy there, right? He wants to be number 1 in points in Blackhawks history, number 1 in goals in Blackhawks franchise history. He wants to break records with the franchise that he's been with for his whole career. But it almost seems like with this new management, they're not to say that they're pushing him out. I think they kind of are. I think they are kind of pushing him out because they want to see what they could get in return for him. They're more worried about the return than the legacy and the player that he's been there. So I guess we'll kind of find out what happens here over the next couple of months. It sounds like he doesn't want to trade anytime before the season begins. So he wants to start the season. He wants to see how the Blackhawks play this year. And I think inevitably at some point, once we get closer to Thanksgiving, and I'm calling it now, I'll probably be making videos about Patrick Kane is available, and it will be on his way out. And it could be working throughout the holiday season and probably into January. I'd like to think if I was the Blackhawks GM, I'd try to get him out as soon as possible, because if you wait till the trade deadline, that's the least value you're going to get for him right before his contract expires. That's the only alternative other than losing him for nothing in free agency. So that's the thing with Patrick Kane here. I think the sooner you can figure out, the thing is Patrick Kane's going to come to them. And that's where it gets more difficult, because they've kind of tied themselves up where they said, listen, unless Kane comes to us, we're not trading him. But you're also talking about how you might not sign him to an extension. So it's like, well, you're kind of putting him in a spot where he's going to either walk because you just decide not to re-sign him, or he gets traded on his own volition. And at this point, it doesn't sound like something he really wants to do. And again, it's going to be much more difficult to move his contract mid-season. Not to say it's impossible. There's definitely a 3-way team trade where basically, let's say he's making $10.5 million, right? $10.5 million AAV. He can very easily get traded to, let's just say, the Coyotes, right? The Coyotes take his money. 50% of that salary gets retained by the Coyotes. So now he's making $5.25 million, right? And then you can send him to the Rangers, the Capitals, the Oilers, whatever your pick is there. So if that's the case, I think it makes it much more feasible and an option in a three-way trade. But again, that's where you need multiple teams involved, willing to make the trade at that time in the middle of the season. And that's where things get a little bit sticky. And that's where maybe you wonder if he does just end up walking in free agency next year. It would be definitely kind of an interesting thing for the new staff there, Kyle Davidson, and the management there in Chicago. But let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. What do you guys think of the Chicago Blackhawks potentially letting go of one of their leaders in Patrick Kane? Would you like to see them trade him as soon as possible? Would you like to see them wait till the trade deadline, see how the season plays out? Or would you like, to extend him? I think ideally in the best scenario, you do extend him. I think he wants to stay. But then again, he's lost a couple of his buddies here over the last couple of years, guys he's played with. Artemi Panarin, Brandon Hagel, Alex DeBrincat, potentially even one of his captain for most of his career, Jonathan Toews. So we'll see what happens there. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.